Now I will be showing you how to draft the back panel of our male shirt using the front panel as a template. So in drafting the back panel, I have my pattern paper laid on my table. Okay, so from the edges of my pattern paper, I measured 1 inch inward, and this 1 inch is going to serve as my pleat allowance. So the straight line I drew is going to be the center back line. So from this edge to this edge is my starting point line for the back panel. So I folded in the pleat allowance I have on my front panel, then I placed the center front on the center back line like so. Now I will be aligning the starting point line I have on the front panel on the starting point line I drew out on the back panel, which is a fresh pattern paper. So I will place this to align like so, and the center back to align on the center front. So when I have it like so, then I traced out my front panel. So you can see what I have. So once I have it like this, then I traced out the chest line, I traced out the waist level, the hemline of my shirt pattern, the side, which is a side seam. Then I marked out the shoulder measurements, the one I have on the starting point line and the one on the chest level. So that was how I arrived at this. So after tracing out all this, then I traced them out properly with my pencil. So on this fresh pattern paper, which is a back panel of a male shirt, so now I have my starting point line at the top here. You can see I have extra space at the upper part of my starting point line. This is because we are still going to extend the shoulder line upward. So when you are making yours, make sure you leave about 3 to 4 inches at the upper part of your pattern paper before drawing out your starting point line. And the line I have here is the armhole line, so which is the same thing as what I have on the front panel. So this is the armhole line on the starting point, and this is the armhole line on the chest level. Then I connected the 2 points together to make a straight line. I got the armhole line from half of the back measurement. From the center front to this point is half of the back measurements. So I want to believe you understand that. So after getting the starting point line, I have my armhole line, as I said earlier. So this is the chest level, this is the waist level, and this is my shirt's hem line. So in constructing the shoulder line, I have half of the back measurement inserted already. So what I will be doing is to slant the shoulder. So I will insert the neck width measurement of 2.75, so which is the same as what I used for the front panel. So whatever you use for the front panel is what you must use for the back panel, because the two shoulder lines are to be joined together and they must align properly. So 2.75 here. Then on the shoulder line, I came down by 1.5 inches for the front panel. So I'm doing the same thing for the back as well. Then I will slant the shoulder line. So this is the first thing to do. Now I can cross out the starting point line I have here. I don't need it anymore. So the shoulder line I just drafted out is the same thing as the shoulder line I constructed on the front panel before I measured 1.5 inches away. Don't forget, I told you I will be cutting 1.5 inches away from the shoulder line I have on the front panel. So before taking this downward by 1.5 inches, the shoulder line I have here is the same thing as what I just constructed. So let's assume I've trimmed this off. So I will just fold this part inward. So if I place this shoulder line on the shoulder line I just drafted, you will notice that I have the same length for the front and the back panel. So this part is very important so that you will not have any issue after constructing your shirt. So here is the neck width point. So this is the shoulder line. So the extra I have here is the seam allowance I added on the armhole. And for the chest level, so you can see this aligned properly. So the extra here is going to be the seam allowance. So this is the richest level. So what I have here is the seam allowance. So now if I extend this downward, the shirt length must be equal. So you can see what I have. So that is settled. So now that I have the shoulder line constructed, then the next step is to add 1.5 inches to the shoulder line. Why do I need to add 1.5 inches? Don't forget that I told you I will be cutting 1.5 inches away from the front shoulder line. So the 1.5 inches I'm cutting away from the front has to be added back to the back. This is a real shoulder line I drafted when I started drafting my pattern. Then I took this downward by 1.5 inches, which is going to be the real front shoulder line. Then I took this up by half of an inch, which is going to be the seam allowance. And I did not cut this yet, purposely because I used this as a template to draft the back panel. So now I can cut this out. I'm not cutting the neckline yet. So now this is what I have after cutting this out. So the 1.5 inches I cut away from here. So this is the shoulder line. So this is what I just cut out. Okay, so the 1.5 inches I subtracted from the front shoulder line has to be returned back to the back panel. So this is exactly what I'm doing right now. So which means the back panel will be longer than the front panel, so the seam will not fall at the center of the shoulder. So from this 1.5 inches point, which I use in slanting the shoulder line, I will come up by 1.5 inches again, so which falls exactly on the starting point line. Then on the neck width point, I will take this upward by 1.5 inches as well. So which is here. So now I will be connecting the 2 points together. So this point and this point. So now this is a new shoulder line for the back panel. Okay, so now that I have this done, then the next step is to raise the starting point line to this point, which is the 1.5 inches I just measured upward. So purposely because I've moved this upward, I've moved the shoulder line upward by 1.5 inches, so I will need to move the starting point line also to this point in order to construct the neckline. So my starting point line is on a straight line, then I will take it up by 1.5 inches. Then I will make it a straight line. Okay, so now I have my new shoulder line and I have my new starting point line. So I will label this as the new starting point. Now I have my new starting point line labeled, and I labeled the new shoulder line as well. So this is the new starting point and this is a new shoulder line. So the next step is to construct the armhole. In constructing the armhole, I will extend the armhole line to get to the new starting point line. When you are doing this, make sure you have a straight line. You can as well confirm your measurements before extending this. So you must have up to half of the back measurement you inserted on the previous starting point line. So this is 9 inches, so I will make sure I have up to that 9 inches. Okay guys, so I've extended the armhole line to get to the new starting point line. So now I will construct the armhole. When I was transferring my front panel on the fresh pattern paper, I marked out the midpoint I have on the front panel. So this is the midpoint line. So this is what I did. So if you don't want to transfer yours, all you need to do is to divide what you have left from the previous armhole line, not the new one. So this is the new one here, so this is the previous one. So from here to the chest level, then you get your midpoint. So I have my 4 inches, so which is the same thing as the part I transferred. So I will just make this a straight line. Okay, so on this straight line I will measure 0.5 inward. When I was drafting the front panel, I measured 0.75 inward. So for the back panel, I will measure half of an inch, because the back armhole is not as deep as the front armhole. So, and this is the chest level point. So here, from here to here is my seam allowance of 1 inch. So you can see the positioning of my ruler. It is not from the new shoulder line, from the old shoulder line here to the half of an inch point, and to the real chest level, not to the seam allowance point. Okay guys, so after constructing the armhole, so the next step is to construct the neckline.